Hi, I'm Dr. Benjamin Shadwick with Ruth's Torah Gleaning. Today's episode, or Torah portion, is called Shemot, and it means names. And so it's about the names that God was going to bring out of Egypt. Because we know in the last Torah portion, it had to do with Jacob and his life and his death eventually. And the fact that he had turned Jacob into a great amount of people, just as he said he would. And now they become a nation. But because of the Pharaoh is no longer the same Pharaoh, and one who didn't like them, he was turning them into slaves. And so it was a very grievous situation that they now found themselves in. So we know in Exodus 2:24 it says this, "And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob." So God remembered the covenant he had made with them, that he was going to turn them into a great nation. He hasn't forgotten, he has remembered. And in verse 25 it says, God saw the people of Israel, and God knew their condition. So he saw the terrible condition that they were living under, and he was going to send someone, and of course we know it was Moses, that was going to deliver his people. It's a picture and shadow of Yeshua being sent to us and delivering us from sin. Then in Exodus 3 verse 8 it says, I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up to a land, a good land, a broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to place them in the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now it's very interesting because God is telling the Hebrew children here that he's taken them to an incredibly beautiful and wonderful land. However, it's right smack in the middle of their enemies. And these enemies would be their enemies from now on until Yeshua returns. And it's not anything new or different that we should be shocked about, because isn't it so with us? Even though we love God and he is blessing us, oftentimes we find enemies all around us. And God uses this for a purpose. One, he uses you and I, who believe in Yeshua, to be the light to them, so they can see the one true God in us. And also he uses them as our enemy to bring tension to our lives and cause us to trust in God even more. In Psalm 23:5 it says, Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup overflows. So obviously in this psalm that you should be very familiar with, you've probably heard it many, many times, read it probably many times. But in this psalm, we see that it's obviously about God blessing the person. And yet, at the same time, they're surrounded by their enemies. They're setting at a table with their enemies. But yet God is there. And Yeshua said it and takes it even a step further when he says, as is recorded in Matthew 5:44, But I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. So it's very obvious what Yeshua has us to do with the people who want to hate us, who want to abuse us. Yeshua wants us to love them and care for them, and ultimately that will show his light of his light to them, and possibly maybe at that way they will come at some point to know him as their Lord and Savior as well. I hope that this helps you this week, that you're blessed, even though you're surrounded by your enemies, that you know the God of Israel, the God of Yeshua, loves you and cares for you and is all around you and surrounds you. Have a blessed week in the name of Yeshua. Thanks.